Now those are some mighty broad shoulders. And ooh, those shoes on their feet can't possibly be from anywhere around these here parts. Everything about that tall, broad-shouldered stranger was possessed with assuredness. It might have been the essential feature that made them stick out the most. I mean, even their yellow plaid button-down shirt underneath that wheatgrass-colored suit was mighty fine too. But their assuredness even outweighed the rich diplomacy of fashion. As if this person could walk the road barefooted, and even then the walnut complexion mixed with the earth tones around wouldn't fault the outstanding demeanor, stride, and wherewithal within them. There is something to note about strangers who come into town or pass through this Slow-Water Creek. Each individual brings with them a specific explanation as to why they're here, be it the accompaniment they keep, like those types who find out-of-town clients for Old Cobb's hooch, or every now and again a beautiful woman with saddened eyes will stroll through town, and they always end up with Kitty Slaw. Or, and should I mean least likely, the return of family members who got out when the getting was good. I'll go ahead and say once you leave Slow-Water Creek, there is no good reason to come back. So strangers present a particular entertainment value for locals, even more special for the sheriff's office, since taxes in this town alone don't fill the bank coffers. I think anyone who drives through Slow-Water with more speed than the creek itself receives a $100 speeding ticket. We must get 5 of those a month. And each paid access through our town consequently always fills a shelf in our local market. Most people here grow everything they require. Everyone else buys off the crops grown, so the market only offers things that can't be produced independently by the lands or man-made by a local. Milk is a precious commodity, as there's only 4 cows in the entire town, and we each pay for the liters provided with slivers from a penny at times. Slow-Water Creek is so small you can only help those who help themselves, and in turn, they keep a blind eye out for those community contributors. Every now and again, a bill for milk isn't paid, and the strain that puts on our town is felt for one reason alone. Milk maidens won't call the Sweetwater Sheriff's Office for an unpaid liter of milk. They'll just take part of your house. Niecy Banks couldn't pay the milk debt a few times, maybe more. Even with the name, banks, and employment, they didn't keep the Norton family milk maidens from removing the tin roof the previous month. And that was only after they took the windows, the back door to the property, and the dog. Funny enough, rumor has it, after the back door was removed from Banks's home, that dog was intended to protect the house, seeing how there was no longer a back door. But the dog was never going to watch Banks's home to begin with because it was never his dog. See, the Peeble family, located just up past the river bend, often called the treasure chest because it's the last thing seen in your rearview mirror leaving Slow-Water Creek. That family couldn't pay a bank debt either due to times as they were, and as a result, they forfeited their kid's dog to pay their bank debt. So after Banks took the Peeble family dog away to make good on the debt owed to the bank, and only trying to protect the home without a back door, that dog was eventually taken as well. And the tin roof was the last valuable thing Banks had. Now there are no more recipes for Banks to enjoy with his compulsion for gambling milk. Most people use Slow-Water Creek water for everything anyway. A few strikes too little force, and a penny won't stretch but so far. Strike it just right and bet it to split down the middle. We call that calves because the wider bottom fragment mostly merchants and the split winner care for. Pieces of these coins are the last valued mineral, collected, melted down, make up a wonder of wealth in many ways. Now the game split pennies is not one children play, nor are they around at all when the game takes place. The capricious display is no sport as fathers reveal themselves against and as foes. The ferocious excitement turns them into a hostile crowd of Homo sapien. At will, strike at the penny and command your desire in a single blow. And like all rites of passage, the game gets stupider because there are those superstitiously gifted or not to claim rights to a 5 and a 12 split penny. A mini copper fragment barely strong enough to pull thread. However, a shot too shy, and the odds are exonerated for any chance of playing that strike again. For those fateful few Sweetwater Creek players who fail to pay to split, the collectors, depending who's due, will take other things in its stead. Milk portions are paid with 3 calf split pennies, or 3 slivers of a wild split. Banks has played it safe with his milk pleasures all year until his luck had a deficit. Too many chances at wildly striking to unleash only failures. It's early October here at Slowater Creek, and the air is unseasonably warm, while the winter's frigidity begins mid-November. Whatever will Banks do when the snow falls? Have you ever heard it speak to you? The whispers of uncertainty in situations or life circumstances? Well, those were the glistening Arctic shades of ice incarnate that froze over the walls of Banks' private quarters this evening, and throughout the small, roofless residence. The chilling realization and sharply stoned feeling from how the pursuits of Banks' happiness were knotted in this precocious manner from the relentless efforts to feel good at any cost. The frivolous gambling habit turned compulsory milk fanatic had finally done to Banks what he had never entitled as a possibility. As money was equated with luck, good feeling, and happiness. All things which were absent and now bare as the cold of the night laid its breath beneath the sheets and gayfully galloped freely throughout the opened air. There was a loud noise from the back of the house that woke Banks from the 7th restless moment that night. With 3 heavy-footed footsteps widening Banks's eyes like axles, a calm voice echoed in the house. "Hello?" accompanied by a long-tempered pause. And then without cause, the voice said, "I don't suspect either of us expected to find another person in a spot like this, but I reckon I've entered into your home." The intruder spoke out loud into the starry dark hallway. Banks would have pretended to be dead, had a fear of actually being killed once discovered in real life came to mind. The floors in this house talked back more than a disrespectful child, Banks thought to himself, so escaping quietly was not easy and now not even an option. As about as long as it takes for a feather to reach the ground outside in the wind, a very meek Banks called back out under Orion's belt in the pine trees. "Yes, you have." And more robustly, Banks added swiftly, "And my dog is asleep at the moment. I'd hate to see the ramifications of you being here when he wakes up, which will be any minute now. I'd go ahead and leave out by which you came if you know what's right for you," Banks offered as a final disclaimer to the intruder. The silence grew like yeast rising in thick bread, and soon turned stale over time from this nocturnal sensory affair. Eventually, needing to secure the security of the home, Banks made passage from the bed in the far corner of the room towards the hallway, which leads to the back of the house into the kitchen area. Moonlit, the house grew fingers in the shadows, but 1 foot ahead of the other brought Banks to the flush doorway into the kitchen area, where the back door was no longer in place. With 3 fingers gripped on the ledge to pull the rest of the body around the edge, the eyes of Banks fell into the stranger that walked into town earlier that afternoon. Now, I often will not spend my money, especially where my money is not necessarily meant or needed to be used, said the stranger. Seeing how every bed in this town a price tag is connected to it, I figured a place of refuge would do me mighty fine. I also figured this here place with no windows, a not-so-reluctant back door, and sans roof would respectfully qualify as a refuge, that is. And I don't intend on spilling any blood for the comfort of these here 3 walls and no windows. I reckon I'll stray away in the morning, and you'll go back to your doings as they were, seeing how you were on the brink of seizing your own opportunities in life. A man can't be this low without a high waiting for him around the corner. This stranger could disarm a rattlesnake without it ever realizing it will never own its fangs again, Banks thought to himself, and then broke the veil of fear and responded dispassionately, I'm not going to spill anyone's blood tonight either, or any other night, unless, repeated the stranger sharply. Bates completed the thought. Unless I had to survive somehow. The stranger cocked back and had the same reassuring look he had on his face when he walked into town, only now he was barefooted, and unbeknownst to Banks, just welcomed himself into his life, and the only record of any of this is written here in this little black book. Lit by a candle that smelled of rosewood and made from the fat of a lamb, melted the arctic shades of ice incarnate and revealed colored kitchen walls with hues of summer reds, orange, light blue, and lily green obtuse mosaic tiles. The stranger was seen standing cross-legged behind the farmer's block next to the refrigerator up against the counter under the light. This little candle rebuked the shadows infested from before, and beside the stranger, laying capsized, was a glass of milk, next to the empty liter of milk on the counter next to him. A bargain belt of thanks for your hospitality is sputtered out by the stranger as Banks jolted across the room in a fit of blind, hissing rage and proceeded to murder the stranger on the kitchen floor barehanded. The following morning, while leaving Slow-Water Creek on foot, Banks had finally come to see the treasure chest as intended, behind him for good. Turns out, the stranger paid $25 to have his card towed across town. Inside was a list of split penny games across the area with footnotes. Sweetwater Creek, $100 ticket, or walk a mile. And all the stranger's items encased, including an Arabian horse leather bootstrap bag filled with money, ironically buckled in the back seat of the car. And the keys were in the central console, and it was parked right at the end of the town's limits, after the river bend.